Facts. And the thing is too, it's like the stuff that we're learning here, bro, it's so simple to apply. It's like so simple to apply once you have the right understanding and logic of these markets. And it's just crazy to see in real time.
I agree and disagree. I think it's simple to apply after a certain period of time and exposure, but definitely not at first. You know,
Yeah,
at
no, that's true.
at first it's a little it's a little shaky, you know what I mean? Cost a lot of money. All right, well, we're already recording, so I'm gonna go ahead and share screen. Um, before we get into the MNQ breakdown, I really just wanted to, just take a look back at what this team has accomplished over the past 30 days alone. I mean, we don't even need to go back to the beginning of the year, but we finished Q1 excessively strong in this community. I mean, I had over, just off the top of my head, over 10 of you guys pass challenges. Um, Primarily just specifically talking about today. Um, we have one of the mentors in this community, Mr. Aquaman. I want to really touch on your journey up to this point because you've literally experienced it all. You passed the challenge a couple of months after you learned and started to apply the strategy last year. You became funded. You experienced what it was like to actually take a payout from the market. And then, just like the most of us, when we get a funded account for the first time, the excitement of trading real money and the excitement of getting a payout for the first time and it actually turning into something tangible for you, um, might have overstimulated you, or something might have clouded your judgment, or something was off and it led you to blowing those funded accounts, which happens to literally like 99.999% of traders that pass a challenge and take payouts. They always end up blowing their first funded account. I know I sure did. Um, and now, fast forward to today, calm, cool, collective, taking the first 3 months of this year to really reposition yourself, and really focus on applying the CYPRX 2.0 material because you're only a CYPRX 2.0 trader accurately and consistently. And now here we are. And just today, Mr. Aquaman is now a funded trader again. So I want to touch on that. First off, obviously, of course, congratulations. It just goes to show the power of this community. Um, you know, 6 figure to 7 figure mentors, showing you guys, how anybody in this community that applies themselves soundly, psychologically, and disciplined can come in, take what it is that we're teaching and apply it to benefit them. We have the tools, we have the institutional order flow, we have the institutional deltas and dark pools. We have the CypherX 2.0 material. We have the fundamentals. We have the crypto breakdowns. We have the literally everything you need. Outside of that, you really just need to dig deep inside yourself and find
Hmm?
your own psychological footing. And that's really what I want to try to get into today. So if you guys have questions that you want to throw at myself or Aqua in regards to a trading journey and whatnot, then start to kind of think of those now because I would love to have those brought to the table. Um, Really, well, I want to start off with you kind of just talking about your journey and your experience starting from last year, what you went through, kind of how you pulled yourself back into the zone, and then kind of more recently, your accuracy and your level-headedness, um, passing a challenge, and then also double taking on a demo account behind the scenes and running it up to 24 grand and having a zero loss streak, like pretty much the entire month of March. I don't think you took an L at all. So, maybe touch on that and just for the recording, for the sake of the video breakdown. Just talk about your experience, talk about where you started, uh, what you went through last year, your journey, bro, how you overcame that and where you're at today.
Yeah, bro. It's been one hell of a journey, and when I first passed my first challenge back in December of last year, I was on fire. And right when I got my funded account, I was running it up, having winning streaks. I took I think it was like a $2,500 payout, ran up the bag to like 6 grand, and everything was Gucci. And I had like a just a certain mindset that I was tapping into to get me to have that much success. And then you guys heard about it, and I was having internet problems. And one sunrise, my internet was lagging, didn't realize it until I was already in a trade and it was too late, and basically lost a big trade. And that basically, I didn't like, in my mind, I was like, that was not fair. That was not my fault. So my mind went into like overdrive and was like, I need to make that money back. That's bullshit. I should have never lost that. This was the internet's problem, not mine. Um, that actually led me to blow my account completely. And luckily I took that payout, right? But yeah, I was like, damn. And then what happened was as I got lost in the sauce with not necessarily not like basically I got lost in the sauce with the time frames. So I found myself, instead of being on the 3 minute, the 5 minute, the 15 minute, I was coming into the market just looking at the 1 minute, going down to the 30 second. And I was having some issues getting wicked out. I was still getting some W's, but my W's weren't as consistent anymore. And I was like, holy shit, like what's going on? Did I lose it? And just, staying tapped in, watching the 2.0 section probably for the fourth or fifth time, just, putting on Zoom calls, past Zoom calls, taking notes, listening to all the little gems. And I had to recalibrate what I was doing. And now I have I feel like a solid system, the way I approach the markets, the way I look at the markets and dissect it. Um, and so, yeah, I've been having really, really good success with those adjustments, and the proof's in the pudding, right? And I got another account too that I'm about to pass as well. I'm like right there pretty much. So I've been working on 3 accounts for a while, for a few weeks now. Passed this one today, and yeah, when we were talking earlier today, as far as my practice account, I was like, yo, if I can do this on my practice account, I can for sure do this like with a real account. Like, because this practice account is the same market, it's the same system. It's just, play money. It's not real money. So that's like the only part of the psychology where you're like, who cares? Fuck it, it's fake money. But, being in that flow state too is the best place you want to be. I remember in one of the Zoom calls from a while back, you had mentioned, you want to be neutral. You don't want to get overly excited. You don't want to get too down. You just want to be neutral. You win a trade, neutral. You lose a trade, neutral, right? And adopting that mindset and really honing in on that mindset, I feel like is what led me to this success again. And, looking back on my prior success when I first passed that challenge, I was coming in with the time frames, the 15 minute, 10 minute, 5 minute, and that's how I was going about my positions, and, making those adjustments and having a bunch of reps too. I feel like having a bunch of reps to really understand, all right, this is my approach, Um, and like I've been saying, it's like we're calibrating our minds as a trader, to be successful, to be profitable. So yeah, bro.
I see PT's hand up. You guys are more than welcome to raise your hand if you want to engage in the conversation. I'll come back to you real quick, PT, just to flow off of what Aqua just recently said. But you mentioned that um, you have this kind of like flow state and this certain approach that you take. Would you mind kind of explaining what your daily approach kind of looks like and what some of the rules that you have set in place for yourself that you feel like have given you a disciplined edge? Like, I know that you've mentioned a couple different times you've incorporated lockouts on your accounts. You've mentioned that you have um, daily loss limits set, you have daily profit limits set so that your accounts get locked out. But also, what does your like daily schedule kind of look like? You wake up, do you wake up 20 minutes before a session and do your analysis? Do you wake up an hour before? Talk through kind of like your approach. And I don't know, maybe it'll just kind of give somebody who's more of a beginner or novice trader an insight into kind of like how you approach your New York session because you're predominantly or only a New York session trader. Maybe throw that in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I come into the markets 1 hour before. And to be honest with you, like if I wake up sometimes like, maybe my daughter was up all night and I woke up like in like 30 minutes, an hour later, I'll usually look for a trade a little bit later into like the middle of the session so I can really dissect everything. And um, my thing is just taking my time and checking all the time frames, right? Checking the 4 hour, checking the 1 hour, the 30 minute, and what is the market ultimately doing, and then aligning myself with wherever the market is moving in that moment. If it's bearish, then I'm gonna look for a down move. If it's bullish, then I'm looking for an up move. And then I usually give myself, and I learned this all, credited to you. It's like, damn, I'm not going to look for a long or a sell here until we break this area right here, and then I will look for a buy or a sell. And I feel like that too, because there's so many times I've caught myself in the opposite side where like, and maybe I won too, right? Because it was like a quick scalp, but um, there's more. I feel like there's more L's when you're on the wrong side, and it's super high risk to take the opposite trade of the momentum of where everything is ultimately going in that moment. Um, and then, just having verification too. I remember today I was like, I need to wait, hold on, I need confirmation that it's for sure gonna go down. Like I feel like it's doing this, but I need that confirmation. So just patiently waiting for that break of structure or waiting for that area of interest to be met. Because just going back, there's so many times where like I got, overly excited and got into a trade too quick and lost, but then realized, damn, like if I would have just been a little bit more patient, I would have had a better entry and I would have won, right? So just reminding myself too, am I being patient? Like that word patience is running through my mind every single day I'm coming into the markets. Like, am I being patient right now? Like, and then sometimes I'm like, you know what? Let's just be patient right now. And sometimes I feel like that turns into hesitation because, like yesterday, I missed two big moves. Like, I literally watched it play out. But it's all good, because like in the back of my mind, I was like, well, that's a win for me. Because if I would have took it when I felt it, then I would have had that W. So it was still like instead of getting down on myself, I was like, dude, that's still a W. Like, and it's
You
teaching me
still
something.
analyze the market properly, even though you weren't in
Hmm.
the trade. I agree, bro. I think that, having the ability to really not feed into that FOMO, right, as a trader, like you just naturally feel, especially being in this competitive community. You got myself and Scalper who are consistently having 100K days. You got other individuals always sending screenshots of their profits in the chat and whatnot. And so it's a very competitive community that can make you feel like you're missing out on something. But in reality, we're all competitors against each other at the end of the day, and everybody is their own journey. And my money isn't gonna sit and profit you guys, and your money is not gonna profit me. So like really separate yourself from comparison and understand that each of us are on our own path and there is no limit to that path that we're on. You guys could supersede myself and Scalper one day, and there's even people in this community, students of ours, who have done so. There's a dude in this community, his name's Brandon. He trades like $5 million of trading capital, probably more now, but um, that's more capital currently than I'm managing in my futures portfolio right now. So You know, don't feel like there isn't enough for all of us to go around. Really, it's about being patient. Like you said, not executing trades prior to you seeing confluences. And then also at the same time, those days where, you take a scalp position and the trade moves against you, you need to really take the time and have the discipline to, maybe you're on the 1 minute time frame. You took a L on the 1 minute time frame. Go up to the 10 minute, go up to the 15 minute and recalibrate. Wait 10 to 15 minutes before you take another trade. Don't instantly try to make that loss back. Yesterday was a perfect example when I was breaking down my L from yesterday that I had taken mid session. I didn't immediately try to execute more trades and try to rekindle my loss. I knew that in order to regain my loss, I needed to be very patient and I needed to wait for confirmation before placing another position. And so I was able to fully, retrace and rekindle that loss that I took yesterday and come out on top. But yeah, that was a really great breakdown. PT, go ahead if you have a question for Aqua or myself, throw that in the mix.
Yeah, I do. Actually, it's so interesting we're having this conversation today because it's something I was hoping we would do. Because how of all the importance that you, Cypress, have placed on the psychological side, at least in the 2.0 content that I'm studying. So my question was for Aqua. Could you sort of lay out or detail out how did you handle exactly that moment of feeling it's unfair, having then lost the account, sort of what were the details, what happened? Because I feel like that's one of those moments where I personally, and I guess other people, could potentially really get lost and enter into some kind of a downward or unproductive cycle. But you somehow seem to have gone through it and used it to your advantage, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this community is one of the reasons why uh I'm having success because when you have a down day, you're able to lean on a bunch of members that are going through the same stuff that you are, right? Not to mention after I blew the account, I had called Cypress right away and I was like, bro, and he already knew. He was like, you blew your account, huh? And I was like, yeah. And I told him, what happened. And I want to say, I felt good and everything after that phone call. But then afterwards, I would say for a strong 2 to 3 weeks, I'd probably even say 3 weeks, I was in my head like trying to pass challenges as fast as possible because I was trying to catch it up back to where I had gotten before. And that was not the best way of going about things at all, right? Clearly. So recalibrating myself and understanding that you're not going to be able to pass a challenge in one trading day, 2 trading days, and accepting that and just accepting the journey as far as being patient um, is the reason why I feel like I was able to redo, pass another combine, and just simply using the CYPRX 2.0 strategy only. I don't have order flow, and half the time I don't even have dark pools or deltas on my charts. Um, which I probably should start incorporating that, to be honest with you, because I did incorporate that back in December when I first passed my first combine. But to be honest with you, I mean the 2.0 and just understanding like where the EMAs are at, Jesus, like that shit has a high accuracy rate, to be honest with you. So I could only imagine me taking scalper's order flow and adding that to my arsenal. I would imagine I'd be able to start competing with Cyprus one day, right? Uh, but
I'll
yeah,
add
that
something to your answer, bro, that you might not even be aware of, but something that I've experienced having been an influence in your life over the past what we've been our friendship's been going on for almost 3 years now, so and I study people, bro. I'm very, I'm very attentive to detail and I pay attention to pretty much everything. I remember things. I can get this sense of people, before I even come into contact with them. But two things that I'd say that are characteristic traits to fall into answer PT's question. is you have this self-belief and resilience to bounce back from trials and tribulations that you're going through in your life. Um, for example, a lot of people don't know the things that you've gone through on the back end behind the scenes over the last year. I personally do because I've spoken to you behind the scenes on personal conversations. But bro, when you're at your lowest moments and you're at those times in your life where you feel like things are falling apart and nothing's going the proper way, and uh, you know, family life isn't the way that you want it to be, and just shit's just a shitstorm. You have this ability to look through those things and understand that your mood is temporary and the path is permanent. The path, the future, you know, ability for you to believe in yourself that you are going to make it. Um, I feel like you having that belief in yourself took you through those dark days. And I'd say that that's very resilient. You're really resilient, bro. You have the ability to, um, you know, just understand that today is one day, and my actions after this day or this experience that I'm going through are what's gonna make me who I am. And you've fed into that. The second characteristic trait that I think that you have as a man, and as an older gentleman as well, is just the ability to learn, the teachability index that most individuals on this planet don't have because they have an ego, or they have this inability to think that somebody else might know more information than me, so I need to sit and humble myself and listen. When we first met, you realized, oh shit, this guy, because when we first met, I was in my late 20s. He's in his late 20s, but dude's a millionaire. I should probably listen to what he says. And you were in your late 30s when we met. So, you had the ability to not look down on me because I was younger than you. And instead you said, look, this guy has more data than me, so I need to listen to what he says and apply that properly. And now here you are. So having the humility to not judge people by age, and having the ability to not be egotistical and think that you know it all, that is a very good characteristic trait that falls into teachability. So you have resilience and you have teachability. And those are two things that you have to have as a trader. You can't think you know it all. You can't have ego. You can't come into these markets and not think that the markets will humble the shit out of you, because they will. And when they do, not get frustrated at the market and realize that it is you. It is not the market. The market's neutral, like Aqua said at the very beginning of today's session. It doesn't know that me and you and Scalper even are sitting here trading. It doesn't care. It doesn't care that we're running bags up on Top Step or whatever asset class or pair you're trading. It knows none of us. It's just neutral. It goes up and down based off of market sentiment and volume, and that's it. And how we apply ourselves in these markets with the risk approach that we take is what gives us the outcome. So, yeah, those are two characteristic traits to answer PT's question on how he bounced back from those things that I'd say that he has, that allowed him to, progress through his journey. Somebody else had their hand up, but it looked like they put it down. Did anybody else have anything?
Yeah, that was me. I just wanted to say, when you mentioned it's competitive, but I don't. The markets are competitive, but I don't see the group as being competitive against each other. When they post stuff, I see it as encouragement, and that's kind of how I've always had you lay it out for us. Pretty much, it's always everybody posts wins, but it's not to see what, hey, look what I did. It's to say you can get here, and it's encouragement for everybody. So I don't think anybody new should feel like they're in competition with anybody in this group, because you're in competition with yourself in the market, and we're all here to help each other.
Beautifully said, Ron. Yeah, I agree. I didn't mean it as in a sense of like we're enemies and we're all in competition with each other. I just meant in a sense of like understanding exactly what you said. Like, I always try to give this description of when you're trading. Imagine we're at a trading floor and me and Scalper are just sitting there like this behind you. Would you make half the decisions that you make in trading? Most likely not. And so think about that when you're trading, when you're sitting there positioning yourself. Like if Scalper and Cypress were sitting right behind me and I was about to execute this trade, what would they say about it? Start to think that way, because it really puts you in that environment of making proper decisions instead of emotional based decisions. So that's kind of more so what I meant. But you're right, bro. We don't discourage anybody, and we're not, saying that anybody can't do what we can do, because I've always humbled myself and I've always understood that one day there's going to be people in this community that outpace me. And I encourage that. I actually, strive for that to be the case because it just shows that what I'm teaching and what I'm bringing to the table and what I discovered years ago, it works. And my goal when I created CyPRX in this community was to do exactly what it's doing, which is to benefit the all. I think that we as human beings and as people involved in this, whatever you want to call it, matrix, the only way to really succeed and survive is if we help each other, you know? I didn't want to be financially successful by myself on some island by myself, sipping pina coladas and smoking fat cigars by myself. No, I always envisioned myself with a group of dudes or now some phenomenal ladies in this community as well joining that. And I've had the blessing of meeting a few of you guys in person a couple of times at some link ups, which will continue to happen. And it's just been a really great journey and transformation. So, Francois, go ahead, brother. If you have something, you raised your hand, and then I think we got another couple of hands raised. So you guys are more than welcome. Just take turns.
Bro, I appreciate you opening up for me to reach out and, hog the Zoom session. So I'll try not to hog it. But also just for me being able to share. So I just want to thank you and, Akko and the mentors and everyone in this community. It's a safe space to share. It's really, I love it. It's really nice. Like you guys are family and I haven't even met you yet.
D'Angelo, bro, go ahead. Your hands up, and then that'll be the last question, and we'll roll over. This was a good conversation, yo.
At what point, bro, did you reach the phase of, okay, I've reached the potential of my learning curve. I feel like I've accumulated the amount of knowledge so far, from my years of experience and the people that I've interacted with, for you specifically, because for me, I feel like, I mean, obviously I'm still in the beginning stages of my career. And I think, and I know I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, just get good at these specific fundamental basics, the 2.0, and potentially, obviously, order flow in the future before diving into, fundamentals, if that makes any sense.
So your question is, when do you feel like, can you
Like you've
narrow that
reached like
question?
yeah, like when did you feel like you finally reached your learning curve potential in trading?
Um, I'd say that I don't really think that I ever reached my potential. I think more so how I would answer that question is I realized that something was working. And then after I realized what that was, I realized I don't need to continue to try to find other things that might work as well and really just focus on what is working. So like one thing that I've noticed as a trader that most traders do is a system doesn't work for them. And then they'll jump to another system, hoping that that system works. And then they'll jump to another system, hoping that that system works. And they'll just constantly do that. When in reality, it's just them. It's just their inner work that they need to do. And they're not doing that inner work and blaming that on the strategy that they're applying. Because there's so many different strategies out there in the markets that work. I told you guys, like my mentor doesn't trade anything except freaking trend lines and EMAs, and he's a multi millionaire. So, it's not really about the strategy, it's about the person. So I think more so it's because I'm still learning, bro. I still learn every day. Every day I read fundamentals. Like today, this fundamental report that I wrote for you guys. Like when I watched that happen in real time, I had to calibrate my awareness of risk sentiment, what this means for the markets. I was in sell positions at the beginning of the session, and I even told you guys in the Discord today, I would only be looking for sells today until we see a shift in sentiment. We see a shift in fundamentals. I know for a fact I said that this rising somewhere in the chat. And then today there was a fundamental that came out that supported risk on assets or an intraday sentiment when Iran said that they're discussing a protocol to open up the Strait of Hormuz. I had to adjust to that and I had to go and I had to read it. I read this announcement right here. I still have it open. I read this and I was like, okay, I'm learning. What does this mean for risk assets? I went and I copied it into freaking ChatGPT and I asked it, break this down for me. Tell me why this, you know, would be bullish for risk assets. And I completely reversed my sentiment. So I don't think you're ever going to reach a point in your career where you're not constantly learning. But the point that I reached in my career where I felt like I didn't need to continue to learn how to apply a strategy that's going to make me money was probably back in 2020 when I became profitable, where I realized, okay, I've learned a certain set of technical analysis aspects about this market that work consistently. I don't need to layer any more technical analysis onto that because the simple confluences that I pay attention to work. You don't need to change that. That that remains consistent throughout your career. So once you've mastered that, really all that's left for you to do is to just be reactive to the changing market conditions every single day, which never change. So you're always going to be constantly learning in that area, in that aspect of your career. But for the TA, you can only learn so much TA, bro. Like if you're 10 years into the game, like myself, and you're still studying TA and thinking that that's what's wrong with your trading, that's not what's wrong with your trading. Same thing if I don't know, even 3 years, 4 years into the game and you're still studying TA or trying to find other TA things to go on top of your trading, like that's not what the problem is. The problem is most likely your leverage. The problem is most likely your inability to, not chase bullish or bearish moves in the market or revenge trade if you lost a trade, trying to jump back into a position 5 seconds after you lost a trade and not being patient. Like there's so many things that go on top of that. But I'd say, yeah, probably in the early 2021 timeframe is when I realized, okay, I have a technical analysis strategy that has proven consistency. I've passed the challenge. I'm on the process of taking my first payout. I don't need to constantly watch YouTube anymore or whatever I was doing at the time, to learn more technical analysis. I just need to lock down what it is that I'm doing and then come into the markets disciplined and look for these setups every single day. Um, so yeah. And if you're not there yet, so be it. You're still in the process of feeling like you need to constantly learn technical analysis, then that's, part of the process. But, you know, once you learn the setups that we look for in this community, you don't really need to learn any more technical analysis. Like it doesn't change. And the best part is it doesn't change across any asset class. So it's the same. Hopefully that answers your question, D'Angelo.
No, it does, bro. That's really well said, and it's what I thought too, as well, because obviously from what we see of the confluences that we learn within the 2.0 material, it's literally similar across the board in every aspect. It's just attaining that
Yeah.
consistency.
The volume and volatility changes across different
Yeah,
assets, and that's really all that you need to manage is that aspect of it. Another thing I will say too is, you know, a lot of people will ignore the inner work. They'll say they're doing the inner work, but then they're just like reading a book and saying that they're doing the inner work. That's not doing inner work. You like really have to journal your trades, journal your emotions, understand how you felt that day in the trade. Even if you don't journal it, just being aware of who you are, what you're going through as a person. Like if you're going through some personal shit and you're trying to come into the market and force things, it's not going to work in your favor. So you have to have the disciplinary action to understand, like, hey, I'm going through some shit in my personal life. I can't be a successful trader right now. Not that you can't be because you don't want to put that into the universe, but more so like I should not be, applying myself to the markets right now because I'm probably bound to make irrational decisions because of how I'm feeling in my personal life. I've been there before. I've been there before in my life where my personal life is just so jacked up and I'm so mentally stressed. There's no reason why I should be a market participant. And that makes you successful. That alone is something that people don't feel like makes them successful. But remember, the goal in these markets is to last longer than the competitors, to last longer than other retail participants. And that requires that, you take a step back in certain times in your life when you're going through things and you realize, hey, look, I shouldn't be applying myself to the markets. Or maybe if I am going to apply myself to the markets today, I don't trade on my live account or my challenge account and I just trade demo money, to see how I go, to see how I manage what I'm going through emotionally in my personal life to the market volatility. So I feel like that aspect of your career never changes. You're always constantly learning, you're always constantly evolving. The future is untold, and so you're always going through new things. Tomorrow, who knows? We might all go through some crazy shit tomorrow. Um, so that aspect of your career is always and forever growing, learning, expanding, you know, that never stops.